Hello, welcome to the People of the Round Table. Today I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to do kind of a reaction and to give my thoughts to an Instagram post I saw. Not something I thought I would be doing, but that being said, there's a lot of these styles of Instagram posts that I see going around a lot, and they kind of spread like wildfires. And I saw this one on quite a few people, that I followed, and it's a massive page. It has millions of followers. And there's like these cute, graphically designed little things, usually with some words about some kind of political thing going on, and I don't know, there's a lot of these, and they're very popular, and oftentimes people feel very strongly about them, but I also don't think that a lot of the people reposting them actually put much thought into what they're reposting or what is even being said in these things. And that's why I think a lot of people and myself get frustrated, because you're just carelessly reposting things, one, that you maybe haven't even thought about much at all, two, maybe you don't even believe in fully, and just as a signal, a virtue signaling to other people that I'm with this cause and I'm not a bad person, or look at me, I'm a good person. And I don't know, and it's not even that I always disagree with them. I want to bring more discussion and give my own thoughts about when I saw this one that I just happened to see today. Maybe I'll do more in the future to try and think more deeply about these things and not just clicking a repost button because it has a pretty picture and says some nice words. So let's go to it right now. So this is the one. This is on a Instagram page called Chnge. It's a massive, massive page. It has 2.4 million followers. And it's the first time I've been on it, but seems to be the theme of, I don't know, posting political stuff, and I guess they make clothing or something. Usually liberal and, I don't know, modern activist themes. Whatever. This is the one I saw, and I saw a lot of people reposting it. It starts out, if you put crabs in a bowl... Oh shit. How do I do this? Here we go. If you put crabs in a bowl, and one tries to escape, the others pull her down. It's a crab, but this is called crab mentality. Or if you can't have it, or if I can't have it, you can't too. But crabs don't naturally occur in bowls. They were put there in an unnatural state, fair enough, by someone with more power, control, and privilege. This is where it takes a turn, and you can see they're trying to get at something that hasn't got anything to do with crabs, and has some deeper underlying political motivation, I guess. Although, not wrong, I suppose. Observing crabs in a bucket is almost always by a human, I guess, so they have more power, control, and I guess more privilege than a crab, although, whatever. Then they make a metaphor to this to humans. That's what happens when people in power force less fortunate ones to scramble for their life. Cooperation and kindness becomes a luxury affordable to those better off, and then the poor and marginalized are villainized. So, I guess we'll start with this. there's a lot of thoughts I have about this, and it's not that I don't. I think it's completely wrong, and whatever. I'll start by saying this. Just off the top of my head, comparing any humans, or it seems a bit, what's the word? Defecating, I suppose. Comparing less fortunate people to crabs. I mean, these are humans we're talking about. I would like to think, first off, that humans aren't crabs. They're a lot more intelligent than crabs. They're a lot more important than crabs, and they have something that crabs don't, which is free will and emotions. So that was my first impression. Although it's a metaphor they're using to try to explain for why less fortunate people might act in a negative way, they're comparing them to crabs, which, I mean, I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't seem the best thing to do. Cooperation and kindness becomes a luxury affordable to those better off. And then poor people are marginalized and villainized. Again, I'll go to the next slide. The whole thing I don't like about it, or one of the things I don't like about it, is that reduction of a human being. And of course, human beings, we share DNA with all the other animals on the planet for the most part, and like as much as like 98% with some of the higher primates. But we're so different. We're the cream of the crop, essentially. We're smarter, we're so much more advanced, we have full control over our environment, just about. And yeah, like thinking people are as helpless and useless as crabs, and like just putting them in a bowl is enough to change their entire course of action and the way they interact with the world, as if they're nothing but mere atoms and matter, and if you put them in a certain arrangement, then they will, of course, act in a certain way, which I don't think is the case. And anyway, trauma is not a natural state. First of all, that doesn't seem right. Trauma, I mean, a natural state, so in the natural world as a living organism, as a human, but as of any organism in the natural world, it seems to me, and I don't think this is a crazy thing to say, it is extremely traumatic, to say the least. Every day is a struggle for survival, where things around you are constantly killed, sometimes in horrific ways, and you're up against nature, and you're up against your own kind, and you're up against other competing animals. And I mean, I haven't lived in the wilderness in a tribal human group, but it doesn't take me long to imagine that it's probably extremely traumatic, and maybe traumatic doesn't even do it justice. And that's humans, who are the top predator in the world. So for the other animals, I mean, imagine if you're a small animal, or a small rodent or fish or something, where your entire existence is just that of prey, and predators constantly are just trying to eat you, and your entire life is spent trying to not be eaten. That seems to be a very natural state that is, at the very least, traumatic. So, yes, I don't know if they're meaning, I mean, to steelman them, are they saying that human beings in our current... Even then, just to be a human, even if, you know, like, even if we have everything that's perfect for us, a house, a car, a good family and good relationships with them, and enough money. All the material things and people around us that you may think, as humans, because of our consciousness, self-consciousness, we can still find a way for that to be traumatic. Oftentimes not our fault, or oftentimes it is our fault, but nonetheless, even if everything's perfect, things can still go wrong in our psyche. So I just think that statement is probably completely wrong, I think. So I guess what they're hinting at is, because crabs don't belong in a bucket, and so humans don't belong in a traumatic life. I mean, that's from the context all I can assume. I mean, I guess they mean in like less fortunate areas with less opportunity, but I guess I'm adding on. They've only said trauma, so I'll go with that. Trauma is not a natural state, so don't judge oppressed people by their resistance. And it's strange because resistance isn't necessarily a negative word, but from the way it's put, from the way they wrote it, I suppose, I can make the assumption that if you shouldn't judge someone on something, it's not going to be a good thing. So what they seem to be getting at is, don't judge oppressed people by their negative behavior. I don't think that's I don't think I'm reaching too much to assume that that's what they mean there, even though they use resistance, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, to resist against evil things isn't... it can be heroic. Not that every time you resist against something is heroic, of course, but it isn't necessarily good or bad. Yeah, I explained why trauma probably is a very natural state. And to reduce people down like that, and to have no hope in them that they can make something better out of a bad situation, which, by the way, we can do and have done for as long as whatever is time, I guess. The reason I don't like this is you can observe why they're wrong in the most traumatic states of human experience. So if you take something like a natural disaster or a world war, and like try to think of the most traumatic experiences that have happened to large groups of people. You would assume that they would do terrible and negative things in order to like scrape and crawl like the crab in order to survive. Which is, at first glance, a safe assumption, and it seems to be right. And it's actually what the Joker is hinting at in Batman. You know, famously he says, what does he say? People are just one bad day away from like chaos, or they're one bad day of becoming like me, the Joker, who is just causing mayhem and destruction just for no reason. Where was I going with that? But in fact, this isn't true. There is something inside us humans, and maybe it doesn't show all the time in every situation by everyone, but it does happen enough to where we do redeem ourselves in the worst possible scenarios. Like, you can look at things like Hurricane Katrina, where people thought that because of all the chaos and the flooding, and that people were just going to basically go down the street and attack, and there was all this, what's the word, tension building up and distrust between people that they're going to do something bad, so we can't help each other because they could be bad people, we can't trust them, they could steal our rations or supplies or resources or what have you. You know, very tribal ways of thinking that at first glance we think that's what's going to happen. But often what we see in things like Hurricane Katrina or a lot of natural disasters or wars is there's something inside of people that can bring people together in miraculous ways, and this seems to be what almost always happens. It's incredible. People helping each other, going out of their way to help rescue and save people, to sacrifice themselves, to do like heroic, seriously heroic and selfless acts for people oftentimes they don't even know, have never met. And this happens time and time again in the most traumatic experiences. And you can go look these up, I suppose. I don't know of any, I should have known, but I don't know of any exact cases. There's plenty. And of course that's the case. The natural world is so traumatic, and so many awful, terrible things have happened in human history that we wouldn't be here if we just dissolved into chaos and started murdering and killing each other every single time we are in a bad situation. We wouldn't survive. Because these things happen, I guess, every day, at least somewhere, probably. And it just points, to me anyway, it just points at their distrust and lack of confidence in other human beings, and maybe even, probably even in themselves. Maybe they hate themselves so that they hate other people, and they have no faith in them left. I don't think this is the right way to go, because life is traumatic, and it seems to be extremely natural, if not the most natural thing. And despite that, I mean, even in Holocaust camps, there's incredible stories of people not giving in and never losing hope, even to their last breath, and going around singing songs. People that are skin and bone, giving their food to a different prisoner in order to, like a younger prisoner or something, to help them live. Like stories that you can't even believe happen, and they happen in the most traumatic cases. So yeah, I guess that's it. Next they say, so don't judge the oppressed by their resistance. First of all, who are the oppressed? I know it's often talked about, so I can imagine what they mean. But what they seem to be implying is anyone that is quote-unquote oppressed in a marginalized group, don't judge them if they try to resist. Anyone can be... Surely everyone is oppressed. This is one thing that I hate about a lot of this common modern rhetoric about oppression, is that now that a lot of the systems that we have that were above us, that brought people together under one common roof, whether that be religion or patriotism in their country or what have you, a lot of those seem to be disintegrated. So that patriotism maybe isn't felt by many people anymore, and definitely the religion isn't felt by many people anymore. And so now what's happening, like, is we're separating each other into as many groups as we can, and this multiplies by the day, and rank ordering them on importance by how much oppression they have. I can't even really get into why that's bad. Right now, I suppose I want to focus on this, but everyone is oppressed, so this isn't helpful. Yeah. Where's the next arrow? So that's it. I don't know. I don't have much more thoughts. Like, I don't have much more thoughts on this. But really what I'm trying to do with this is at least open a discussion about these things, and not even that this one in particular is that important, or that it's evil or wrong necessarily. Just the common theme of these graphic design, nice things with nice words, I don't think are always what they seem. And I want people to pay more attention and maybe read and think about them more deeply before they just carelessly repost things or say these things or take ownership of these beliefs. This is a delicate time to where everyone has been divided into groups, and that anyone that disagrees is immediately or de facto your enemy, and there's no middle ground in between people. Often people don't seem to forget that maybe people are a little bit good and a little bit bad in different ways, and you are too, and everyone is. We've tribalized every little group possible, and we continue to do so more and more. And then we look at the ones in disagreement as evil, and they are all the evil, not ourselves. And I think the only way to establish this middle ground again is through dialogue and speaking about these things, and trying to be truthful and honest. So that was my thoughts. Maybe not the best, but it opens the discussion to think about these things more. So if you enjoyed that, leave a comment. I'd be interested in doing more of these if people wanted to hear about them. So I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.